Davis. She is a real estate broker for ERA Realty. That sort of undersells her substantially. So she's not just a real estate agent, she is the #1 realtor by volume in Iron County. She, as I mentioned, is an agent for ERA. She is the #1 agent nationally for ERA, based both on the number of homes, and so volume and total revenue. She set the goal of selling 70 million in homes this year and has already reached that goal, which is incredible. She's received many honors, including Cedar City Woman of the Year. She, as I mentioned, was, before this year being the #1 agent for ERA nationally, was 15 years in the top 25. She's been recognized by the Wall Street Journal as one of the top 400 real estate professionals in the country. She is president of the Justice Center, which is the Justice Children's Center, which helps abused children. She is a remarkable person, and we are very lucky to have with us today Jennifer Davis.
Thanks so much, everyone, and thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here and to talk about something that I am super passionate about. I've sold real estate for 27 years now, so that ages me. Now you guys can probably do a little bit of math and see how old I am. But I started in real estate in my early 20s, and I was a young mom with a toddler. I had no idea how I was going to help people with one of their biggest decisions that they were going to make. And they were usually a lot older than me and had way more experience. And I was going to help them sell their house or buy a house. And so that was really intimidating. And add to that the fact that I didn't have any money to start my real estate business either. So I had to go on a lot of other things that were relatively cheap or free in order to grow my brand or grow my name. So just kind of a funny story. One night when I was just kind of just kidding, I wasn't scared. I was just a teenager, and we were bored one night, and we stole all the real estate signs in town off of everybody's house that was for sale, and we took them to the local real estate office, and they had a big front yard area, and we put them all in the yard. So when they came to work the next day, they came to work to all of the signs in town being on their front yard. And so it's just kind of funny that I got into real estate several years later, and I would not recommend that you guys do that, because that causes a lot of grief for real estate agents. We pay people to put up our signs, so it can be costly and trying to figure out where they go. So I feel really bad about that to this day. It's kind of bad that I did that. Also, in my high school yearbook, when they asked what I wanted to do when I grew up, I said, I want to be a real estate agent. So I've always been destined to do exactly what I'm doing right now. And another thing that I feel like lent to me going into real estate is just that growing up in St. George, so I grew up in southern Utah. I've lived in Cedar City. I'll tell you about that a little bit later. I moved here to go to college at SUU, but growing up in southern Utah, we moved 13 times by the time I was 18. So we rented houses, we built houses, we sold them, we rented again, and I just would not recommend that kind of lifestyle for your family. Owning a home is very stable and brings a lot of stability to a family, and so that was really hard for me, and so it again made sense that I sell houses for a living and I get people into that stability of home ownership. So after I graduated high school, I moved to Cedar City to attend Southern Utah University. It was actually called something else. But they had a real estate school here. So I signed up for it. I moved here. got a job and everything, and then they canceled the real estate school and closed it down permanently. So my money was refunded, and I still didn't have my real estate license. So I got a job at a telemarketing company here in town, and learned how to call people and interact with them. And then later I got a job working for a TV station that broadcast in Hawaii, but their sales office was here. And I was able to call customers and sell them business ads. And so again, you know, just another thing that I learned along the way. And at the time, the owner of that company built me what we call a CRM now. So just a lead management type of system, so that I would know when the end of somebody's fiscal year was, or if they were having surgery and they needed to not renew their ad until March. I was able to call them, check on their, you know, their surgery and how things went, and they were just amazed at how much I was able to remember, but it was just from that program that he had built for me. And then as that business kind of unwound, the couple that owned it was going through a divorce, I ended up getting a job at Maurice's, at the clothing store here in town, as the assistant manager. So as I was the assistant manager there, I didn't know a lot of people in Cedar City, but I got to know some of my best customers. And I was able to use some of my past knowledge, and I wrote down what they liked in clothing, what size they wore and everything, and then I would call them and leave a message whenever I unloaded freight that looked like something that they would like and appreciate, and then they would come by at their leisure and buy those. And while I was working there, I was in charge of the scheduling, the taking care of the just all of the reviews, the wall displays, unloading freight, and then I was expected to sell $115 an hour in clothing as part of that. So that was the way that I was able to do all of that, is just by working a little bit smarter instead of, you know, being there available for those customers. So I was able to pick out their outfits and get them in. So one of my best customers came in regularly, and she asked me if I had ever considered selling real estate. And I was like, yes, my whole life. So her husband was a broker here in town, and that's where my career in real estate began. So through the ups and downs of selling real estate and building my business, I learned a lot of things, and I'm still learning, but I just wanted to point out and identify a few of these things that I've learned. So the first one is be ambitious and creative. So when I first got into selling real estate, there was another agent in my office that was the top agent in the area. He had sold real estate for several years. He knew more people than I did. I didn't know anybody. And I'm naturally very competitive. And of course, I wanted to do better than him. So he was my goal, just do better than him. So I watched his numbers, I watched what he did, and I did things different and better. And some of the things I did the same as he did. And I just perfected those things. He had, and that's one thing that I wanted to point out. It's okay to look at your competition and see what they're doing when you're running a business. You can get great ideas that way. Don't just directly copy them, but you can actually learn from them and learn what works and what doesn't work. You know, you can directly see if their ad is effective, and especially nowadays with a lot of the social media and the different ways that we advertise, you're able to see how many hits and things like that, but that wasn't the case back then, of course. So I didn't have as many real estate signs out on houses as he did, because I was just newer in the business. So I decided that when my signs were out, I was going to add my picture so that people would start getting familiar with me in the community. So I was the first one in this area to add my picture. I had to go to a sign company and ask them to design a sign that had my phone number and my picture on it. And now everybody does it, and I think that that's the greatest compliment when people copy you. So I secretly like that a lot. I was also willing to do what nobody else was willing to do. So remember, I had that past experience of telemarketing. So I thought, I could do this. This is free, you know? And back then, we didn't have do not call laws and stuff like that, but there's ways around that now too. But I got a phone book. Remember what a phone book is? It's one of those things that has everybody's number. And I just called from A to Z. And I asked people if they had any real estate needs. I was like, oh, well, they don't know me. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't matter if they think I'm weird or whatever. I'm just going to ask. And if they said no, I just asked them if they knew of anybody that had any real estate needs. And that got me my business that I could work on for the next 2 days. You know, I could work on, they're looking for a lot that they could have horses on. Okay, I'm going to go to work and be getting them a building lot and get some information there. So I did that. Also, I didn't have a lot of money, but I had a stack of business cards. So what do you do with those? Like a good door-to-door salesperson, go knock on people's doors and ask them. So anyway, it's scary even to think about nowadays for me to just walk around and knock on doors, but okay, I would do it if I had to. But back then, that was the way. I handed them a business card, asked them if they knew of anybody that was thinking of selling. And again, that got me in more homes, you know, more recognition, and it was free. It just costed time, you know, and a business card. So I also was able to interview my customers and ask them what they liked about their last business decision that they made with real estate. What did they like? What worked for them? What did their agent do that made them feel special? What did they not do? What didn't they like? And I was able to design my business after what they liked and what they appreciated and enjoyed. So throughout their real estate experience. And that helped me. One of the things that I coined way back then is I had a lot of customers that said, we hated getting locked into a contract with somebody, and then if they didn't work out, how do we get out of it? Like, we just can't get out of it. And I thought, my doctor doesn't lock me into a contract, my dentist doesn't. I want to be that kind of professional. So if they want out, I'm going to let them out. So I created a cancellation guarantee that if I'm not doing my job, if they don't like the service that I'm providing, if something changes in their life, they can cancel with me at any time during the process. And I explain it that way. Just if I'm doing my job, they're going to stay with me and they're going to send their friends and family to me. If I'm not, then I deserve to be fired. So that was just kind of something that was a really great thing that I implemented early on and was able to sell that to all my customers as I went. So as my business started snowballing, I realized and noticed that no one was doing radio ads. And back then we didn't have Sirius, we just had local radio stations. And I thought, you know what, I could do radio ads, you know, that would be fun. So I hooked up with a good salesman at the radio station, and I interviewed him in a way that I was like, I don't want you to just sell me an ad, I want you to write me an ad, you know, just a cool ad that's funny or clever or something like that. And then I want to record it with my own voice. I don't want the radio voices, because people zone out when they just hear the same voice over and over again on the ads. I want it to be my voice. And so that worked really well, because people would recognize my voice even. I would be in the grocery store talking to somebody and someone else would say, are you the girl on the radio? I recognize your voice. And so I must have a real distinct voice, and I don't know if that's good or bad, but I do radio ads, and I still to this day do radio ads, and I love doing that. So that helped me, again, get out there. And let's see, so continually I train, I learn, I improve, I grow. I don't ever stop, even now. And nowadays, of course, marketing has continued to change, and now a lot of things are digital, and that is far out of my scope of expertise. So I learn what I can, and then I hire people to do what I can't do and what I don't have time to do. And I feel like that continuing to grow and learn the business and learn how to market is crucial to any business, but to my line of business especially. So number 2 is don't be a quitter. Nobody likes quitters. We don't like quitters. So it's easy to have a hard day, and it's easy to have a hard week or a hard year. I've had all of those, but I picked myself up. I remembered why I got into this business. I remembered how much I've put into this business as far as time and effort, and pick myself up and move forward. So when I was first in the business, I was waitressing at nights to support my real estate business so that I could sell real estate during the day. So yet another job. I sound like you guys, you have all these jobs. I feel like back then in my day, we stuck with the job for a long, long time. But anyway, I apparently didn't. So, so I was selling real estate during the day, waitressing at night. I had some customers that I showed a house to during the day, and then I went up to Rusty's ranch house and waitressed, and they ended up, I called them to check in, and they wanted to write an offer on that house. So I asked to get off work early, went to my office. I, of course, got my nicer clothes on and got to the office, got ready to write that up, and over an hour went by, and they still hadn't shown. And an agent from another office, one of my competitors, called me and he said, "Hey, are you still waiting for these guys to show up?" And I said, "Well, yeah, how do you know?" And he said, "Oh, they're my clients, and so I'm taking them and I'm gonna write them up." And I'm like, "Oh, I almost lost my waitressing job for this, but okay, thank you." And it would have been easy to quit right then. That was my first deal that didn't happen, right? And I did think, maybe I'm not cut out for this, because this is kind of a rough world, but I didn't. I'm so grateful that I didn't quit right then. So it's okay to feel angry and frustrated and to feel like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Why did I start this business? But it's okay to go there, just don't stay there, and that's the biggest thing that I've learned. Let it roll, let it roll off your back, brush it off, move forward. So, so many people get into business and they end up quitting because it's harder than they thought it would be. So what they don't realize is that every successful profession is going to be hard. Everyone, you've got to work. You've got to work hard. A wise broker of mine once said, if it were easy, everyone would do it, and everyone would be successful at it, right? So I always remember that. If it were easy, everyone would do it. Right now, everybody and their dog is a real estate agent. So I am thinking, yeah, everyone is doing it. But not everybody is successful at it. So add that one last line. Everyone would do it if it were easy, but they wouldn't be successful at it. So number 3 is adapt and pivot. So when I first got into real estate, the market was relatively flat. So there were probably 8 or 10 houses on the market in all of Cedar City, and maybe 50, 60 real estate agents. Okay, so do the math. There's not very much business to go around, So that gave me an opportunity to build relationships, interview people, find out what they liked, what they didn't like. And I had nothing but time to do that. So, because I didn't have a lot of business. So I talked to a lot of people. And when the market got hotter and became, a little bit more aggressive, I started getting repeat and referral business. So I increased my staff, and I worked a lot of hours to meet the demands of the buyers and sellers. And when things went digital, I learned what I could and learned how to adapt to that too. Then there was a mortgage meltdown. You guys might have heard about that. And everybody lost a lot of value in their homes almost overnight. So I adapted. At that time, I learned how to do short sales. And so what that is working with the bank to short pay off what they owe on the house. So I was able to learn how to do that, present a package to the bank, letting them know why they should do a short payoff, and I also worked with foreclosures and investors. So I was able to work with banks and get the homes ready to sell and getting them fixed up. So I had to work with contractors and various repair people and help them to market and sell those. Then, you know, many of you remember a couple of years ago, COVID hit. So for a couple of weeks, I was like, do I even have a job? Can I sell houses? Does anybody want to sell houses right now? You know, or buy houses? We didn't know. So for a few weeks, we called our clients and checked in on them, asked them if they needed anything, if they had groceries, if they, you know, just needed anything. I offer a lot of counseling. I should have taken some psychology classes while I was here at SUU. You know, there are so many classes. I can name several that if you're going into business you should take, and psychology is one of them. So we just counseled with people, talked to them, asked them what we could do to help, and then we adjusted our business. We didn't have all the answers. People asked, where's the real estate market going? What is this going to do to the market? What's this going to do to our value? I'm like, I have no idea. I have no idea. Let's just wait and see. And then the market took off, and it actually went crazy here. And many of you might know that it's just snowballed from there. It's been a crazy market. But at that time, we were able to call homeowners and tell them about the equity that they'd instantly gained in their home and see if they'd like to take advantage of that. So it's just about keeping up with whatever is happening rather than worrying about it. Worrying about it doesn't get you anywhere. So number 4 is customer service never goes out of style. It never gets old. And too many businesses are forgetting about customer service. They're forgetting about their customers. And when somebody has a good experience with a company, they maybe will tell 1 to 2 people. And you guys have probably learned this already. If they have a bad experience, they're going to tell over 10 people and probably write a really bad review. So customer service is everything to a business owner. So it's crucial that I take care of my customers and I make sure that they know that I care. I make sure that they know that that I'm going to I'm going to take control of all of their deadlines. I'm going to make sure that no deadlines are missed, and I'm going to make sure that they have a smooth transaction. So I wanted to stress that buying a home is one of the most stressful things that people do in their lifetime. And so I want to make their journey as positive as possible. And I want to be people's real estate agent through their kids, their grandkids. Right now I'm helping people's grandkids that I started out helping the grandparents many years ago. And my goal is to make my customers each individual experience be the best one that they've ever had. So I love great reviews, of course, every business owner does. And I love it when my customers send me their friends and family. That's even the best review that I could get. I just closed yesterday on with somebody that they were sent by a past customer that I sold a house to in March. And now they're telling all their friends in Las Vegas, come to Cedar City and call Jennifer Davis. So that's perfect. Number 5 is understand your strengths and weaknesses. So know your superpower. Don't try to be an expert at everything. Nobody is great at everything. I'm sorry to say, they're really not. They're going to be good at one thing, not so good at another thing. I'm not a detail person, and I am not a super organized person, but people compliment me all the time on being so detailed and organized. And the reason is that I hire people that are detailed and organized, and I use a lot of programs to keep track of things and to make sure that I'm on top of things. If I hired, and I did make this mistake when I first started hiring people, I hired people that were just like me. Okay, we got nothing done. We just sat there and chatted. We had a great time. We went to lunch. We got nothing done. That did not work out. I have to hire people that are the opposite of me, or that are just completely different, and that are skilled for the individual job that I'm hiring them for. So I need to surround myself with people that offset my weaknesses, which I have many, and we're not going to talk about those today. So in just 6 months in the real estate business, I hired my first assistant. I hired a college student to come help me to make key copies, to do flyers, do all my data entry, things like that. My husband thought that I was absolutely crazy. He was just like, what are you doing? You're new in the business. And I said, this will free up my time so I can go knock on doors and call people and be able to build my business up. And so now he doesn't question me anymore. So but that helped me to do what I do best. And I've learned, even from when I hire people, if I don't give them a personality test, or if I don't make sure that I hire the right person for the right job, that they're stretched too much. They go home exhausted every day. So when you're doing something that's outside of your expertise or outside of your comfort, sometimes that's still going to be the case, even if you work through it. But I found that if I hire to the job that I'm looking for, that they go home just happy, and they're able to work and be very effective in the office. So now I have 5 assistants, including my husband, and he says he's my lowest paid assistant. I don't pay him, but he gets to live at our house and stuff like that. So anyway, but this, hiring people also helps with my customer service, because while I'm here right now, or while I'm with customers at their house, listing their house, my assistants are answering questions for buyers and sellers as they call in, so they get immediate help. And then when I am free, I can finish helping them with things. But this allows me to focus on lead generating tasks. So that's also known as things that make money, instead of things that don't make money, running the office and things like that. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is setting goals. So if you don't know where you're going, how do you know if you get there? How do you know? So I like to set goals with my team. So at the first of the year, we set a goal for the year. We set a goal for each, what that looks like, how much business we need to do per quarter and per month. And then I know how many contacts I need to make in order to meet that goal. So if we're not quite on our goal, and a few months ago I didn't think we were going to make our 70 million goal this year, because we kind of had a little lull, and I thought, you know what, I need to buckle down. I've got to get busy and stop slacking. So that's when I know I need to work harder and smarter, and to help accomplish our goals. So it just pushes me if I know that we've got a goal and we're not quite there. And maybe I get a little bit lazy if we do meet it, and I'm like, oh, okay, I could just maybe relax for a minute. But anyway, that doesn't happen. I'm just saying. But it's important, if you do set goals for your business or for a company or for your job or whatever, set up with somebody that can hold you accountable. So just a trusted person that you can say, hey, can you hold me accountable? I'll hold you accountable. Remember the agent that I was trying to beat, early on in my business. He and I met together, and we were like, we want to drive each other, like we want to hold each other accountable. And so we made these punch cards, and whenever we made a contact with somebody random that we didn't know, then we got to punch the punch card, and at the end of the punch card, the other person, whoever filled it up, the other person owed them a Coke or something like that. Like we just kind of, and I'd want my card filled way before him. I was like, he's so buying me Cokes all the time. And so he was, kind of going, he was getting a little chunky because his business was just automatically coming in, and mine I had to work for. But that drove me because, he was slowing down, and I was picking up and just gonna pass him by. So anyway, write them down, have someone hold you accountable. And I really, again, I love the accountability aspect. So I don't have tons more material. I have maybe a funny story to tell you. Well, it's not funny, but just a story to tell you about how I lured in my best buyer ever. And so I'll tell you about that, just kind of a funny thing. And I have lots of fun stories about skunks and squatters and things like that if you ever want to learn about those. But anyway, I had a home listed that was $1.2 million. And this is a few years ago, $1.2 million. Like, there's not very many buyers in this area that can afford that on our wages here. So I marketed it outside of Cedar City. I was like, I'm not gonna find a buyer here. And that didn't work. In fact, I ended up getting some crazy people, and one guy that said he invented a flying car. And I was like, okay, this guy. Anyway, he called me all the time, and I knew that he was not a real buyer, real viable. So I started thinking, who in Cedar City, then I don't have to not only sell Cedar City to them and how they're gonna make money and where are they gonna, I had where they were gonna live. So I thought, I need Cedar City royalty. So I need somebody that's here, that's made it, that's not too old, because this is a 10,000 square foot house with, 7 bedrooms and a pool and everything. I'm like, they're not gonna want, somebody older is not gonna wanna, do 3 levels of a house that's 10,000 square feet. So I called a few people, and one in particular I called and I said, hi, you don't know me really, but I'm Jennifer Davis, and I have your house, and you just don't know it yet. So I'm wondering when you would be available to see this house. And he was like, what? You are crazy. Who are you? Why are you calling me? Anyway, and I just said, look, you've got a lot of kids. You are very successful. You need this house. And he's like, well, we're really pretty set in our neighborhood. And I said, is your house big enough for your 6 kids? And he goes, no, it's not. But there's lots of kids in the neighborhood and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, don't you think that a house with a pool, your neighbors from your neighborhood are gonna drive their kids to your new neighborhood so that they can go to birthday parties at your kids' pool? And he's like, okay, whatever. So a month later, he came and looked at the house, and I was like, see, this is your house. Anyway, it wasn't that easy. It took a long time for him to close, but he did buy the house, him and his wife, and they love it to this day, by the way. But I'm like, you're welcome. But he already had a house. He had a building lot that he was gonna build on. So I had the owners of the house, who was a builder also, buy the building lot from him and his house. So we did that on trade, and then did cash and a loan. So we were creative, and then he built a spec home on the lot, and I was able to sell the house that they had moved out of. Anyway, it worked out. It was just kind of a funny thing that I was able to, to put that all together. And anyway, I was just excited that it all worked out. So anyway, I hope that I've expressed some things that would help you with many different types of businesses or careers in your future. It's always my suggestion, though, to never stop learning. Always use, you can tell over the years, I've always used my last experience, my last job, my last skill on the next hurdle or on the next thing. So never stop learning, never stop growing. When people say, Jen, you're at the top of your game, I'm like, that makes me super uncomfortable because I'm not. I always need to be learning. I always need to be growing. I always need to be striving to do better. I tell people all the time, I'm unemployed every single day. So I have to go to job interviews and see if somebody's going to hire me to sell their house or to help them buy a house. So I'm still striving and learning every single day, and of course trying to grow my business every day. So I think that we can turn the time over for questions and answers if anybody has anything. Danny.
How do you know if your goal is like gonna push you, but it's like still realistic, like the 70 million goal? Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. So if you break it down, so I have lots of years to draw on because, we did X amount of million the year before and stuff like that. So, but if you're just newer, do it realistically, because if you set it too high, then you'll give up, because it's not realistic. And so my suggestion is to talk to somebody that's, that kind of can mentor you and be realistic and say, look, so think about how many people you would have to meet with to meet that goal, and see if you're really willing to do that. Because if it's something like you've got to meet with 10 people and sell 2 of them per day, then that's probably too lofty of a goal. So anyway, you kind of have to look at the individual situation. And once you have a year in, then you have last year, to draw on always. So thanks. Yes.
What advice do you have for people that want to get into real estate right now, like young college students?
Yeah, okay. Run. No, just kidding. So I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. So, really it would be to talk to somebody like a broker and see, kind of set goals, see where, if it falls in line with what you're willing to do. Remember, I was willing to do the things that nobody else was. Most of those people are out of the business. So there's a high turnover with real estate. So I think it's like 50 or 60%, maybe even 70% turnover. So make sure that that you talk to somebody that can mentor you and help you along the way. So yes.
You mentioned that there was a point where your husband was unsure about you hiring an assistant. How did you make that decision to go ahead and hire that person? And I'm sure you've had other decisions that you had to make like that. How have you made those decisions, I guess?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I looked at what I would pay an assistant, and at the time it was a lot lower than right now. It was like $5 an hour or something like that. So I showed my husband even and myself, okay, I've made this much, in the business. So if I am doing $5 an hour things, then I'm not going to make $100 an hour or whatever I was going to make selling real estate. So if I utilize my time wisely and I'm not sitting there next to my assistant and I'm out doing business, then I can justify their $5 an hour because I'm out doing high dollar things and getting more business. So whenever my business would go to a different level and my family was like, we never see you and we still like you, then I would hire another assistant. That was usually my cue to get another assistant so that I could still be a mom. So, yes.
So how did you juggle being a mom and growing a successful business?
And that is hard, but one of the biggest things is I put my kids down as an appointment. So if they had a soccer game, if they had a doctor's appointment or anything like that, and I didn't tell my customers, one of the biggest mistakes that people make is, oh, we're going, on a family trip, and they're like, can you cancel that? Because their, objective outweighs yours. And so I always put their things and their events in as an appointment. So I just would say, I've got an appointment from 3 to 5, but I can get with you afterwards or before. And that way I always, I just put them in as an appointment. So they're my best customers. So I have 5 kids, and so it hasn't been super easy raising a family and growing a real estate business. That's one of the reasons that my husband joined me over 20 years ago, is because I needed somebody to help, to help juggle a lot of that. So we're like, okay, are you going to get them ready for this, or am I? And anyway.
My next question was kind of a follow-up to that last statement. How did your husband play into this? Like, what process or what stage were you at when you met him, and how has he played a role in the whole growth of your business?
Yeah, thanks. Perfect. So he is a different personality than me, completely the opposite. He's quiet. He's an observer. He's a detail person. He does books. He graduated from SUU with his accounting degree, so he does all of my analytics. He does my books. He manages all of my advertising so that I don't just spend too much money on things. He doesn't manage my clothing though, expenditures. That's on the side. So I'm like, you can't be involved there. But he just is the perfect complement. And I felt like when he joined me, we either needed to separate and go different ways because he was going crazy with how much I was working, or he needed to join me and get on board and help out. So I'm glad that we did the latter. So, yes.
So it was kind of a question to both of those, another add-on. You mentioned that you were a waitress, so you had that extra job, and you were growing your business, and you're a mother. And so how did you keep yourself from getting so burnt out with all of these activities that you were doing and not completely feel exhausted by the end of the day?
Well, I felt exhausted by the end of the day. That's it. But waitressing, you can make pretty good money in a short shift, just in an evening shift. And I worked 3 shifts a week. So that helped a little bit, but I did feel exhausted, even though I was half my age I am now. But still, it was hard. But it drove me to get out of waitressing. So every door I knocked, every person I talked to, I was like, that's one more step away from to quitting my waitressing job and moving on with my business. So it drove me. Yes. Yeah.
So you talked about how you always like to hire people that have different qualities than you do, but I was wondering, what are some consistent things you always look for in the people that you hire?
Do you know what? They always are going to be involved in customer service, so they're always going to be answering phones or something like that. There's nobody that's just behind a computer. So I look for people that can handle the phones and talk to people and be cordial. I always tell them, you've got 30 seconds to make that person on the other line love you. So do it. So that, that way they don't hang up and call the next agent. So, and that needs to come across on text when they text people, on emails when they email people. They need to not be robots. I can hire artificial intelligence for that. So.
One more question.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Kind of with that, when you are looking for personalities that are maybe different than yours, how do you know which personality would fit which job and how to group that?
Right, that's a great question. So if it's a sales job, if it's working as a buyer's agent, then I give all of them a personality test whenever possible. And so I make sure that they have the qualities. They can't overtalk and oversell. they need to have some listening skills as well. And if I'm hiring for somebody that's doing my closing coordination, they need to be super detailed, but still good on the phone and have a lot of street smarts. So they need to see around corners and be able to see that this file is not looking good. So that's going to be a totally different person. So.